When did you first notice you were different?
So I probably didn't notice probably until I got to middle school in sixth grade because when I was in elementary school, I had a parapro with me from kindergarten till fifth grade, and then when I got to middle school, I was in a resource room. So in my resource classroom, it wasn't just individuals who were on the autism spectrum. It was individuals who had ADD, ADHD, learning comprehensions. So it was a different, spectrum, if you would, of different individuals who had different learning disabilities. And so, my first year of not having a parapro was weird, but I had my resource room teacher, Mrs. Hall. And when I started to notice and hear about the other individuals in my resource room class with me, what kind of learning disabilities they had, my immediate thought was, oh, I'm with everybody else in resource room who has a learning disability, so I have one as well. I said, that's probably why I'm in here. So that's when I started to realize that, I'm a little bit different than my regular classmates because, you know, I don't pick up things quite as fast as maybe the normal average 4.0, straight A student would. Whereas me, I had to learn things step by step and process by process. And so that was what my resource room was for, was to help me, learn those, classroom lessons and math problems, baby steps at a time, and not like do it all together and be done. And so that's when I kind of realized when I got to middle school, but there was nowhere in my mind I even thought about what my learning disability was until I got a little bit older when I was in high school.
And your parents explained it to you your first year of high school, right?
Yep. So about 2 weeks going before my freshman year of high school, I was just in our family den watching Detroit Tigers baseball on TV, and so my dad, called me into the living room, and my mom was there, and my dad said, "Hey, sit down. We want to talk to you for a little bit." And so, and my mom looked at me and said, "Well, so we want to talk to you about something that happened to you when you were a young kid, when you were about 5 years old." So, my mom said, you were diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder, which is a type of autism spectrum disorder. And when you were 5 years old, this is what these doctors and professionals said about you. And so, so as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, well, now I know what my learning disability is, what I was diagnosed with. So I'm glad to know I know that, because now I can learn more about it. I can learn more about my weaknesses, my strengths, and how I can communicate better with everybody around me, communicate with my teachers, and advocate for myself. Um, but also at the same time, all I kept thinking about was what those doctors and professionals said to my mom and dad when I was 5 years old. And
hmm
the only thing that was going through my mind was, who would say this about a 5 year old?
hmm
How can you predict a future for a young 5 year old who's on the autism spectrum? Like, how can you do that? Because again, I'm a very slow learner. So it took me time to learn my numbers in kindergarten. It took me time to figure out shapes and sizes and all this other stuff. So at the same time, I understand that and go, okay, well, I was slow learning. But looking back on it, I'm like, well, why would they say that? And so my mom asked me, what I thought about all this. And I said to her, well, I'm glad to know what I was diagnosed with, because now I can learn more about it and learn more about me. And so I said, but everything else, I got to think about it a little bit more. So I remember going back to our family den. I turned the game back on, but then I put it on mute for about 30 seconds. And I just leaned forward on the couch that I was sitting on. And all I said to myself was, all right, let's go shut some people up. They said you can't do this because you have autism. All right, let's go out and show them why you can, despite having autism. And so that day forward kind of lit a fire in me that, really set the stage for what my future was going to be like.
hmm Yeah, and I do just want to comment on what the doctor said because I think it really shows how much autism research has progressed over the
Hmm.
years. Like
Absolutely.
how old are you now?
So I'm 31,
31, right? And so this was like,
26 years ago.
right. And so back then, what doctors knew about autism was so limited compared to what they know now. And so,
Right.
with this lens, thinking about a doctor saying that to parents, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We know so much more about it. How could you say something that is so limiting? But when you think about autism, even like 40 years ago,
Hmm.
50 years ago when people were put into institutions.
Yeah,
It's I think it's just something to remember, like how far we have come along.
absolutely. And like, just like as far as like the awareness and like where we were, when I was 5 years old, like again, nobody knew, because when I was diagnosed in 1993, nobody knew what autism was back then. Nobody knew a lot of the characteristics for it. Nobody knew a lot, there was no path, there was no guidance to help those families and individuals and educators on what to do for an individual in the classroom. And so during that time period, the early 90s, it was more the ADD, ADHD era for diagnosis. So somebody being diagnosed in the autism spectrum during that time, it was very, very rare. And so, but yeah, and where we're at today, as far as the research and the ABAs, CBAs, like it's amazing. Like I have all boys on my side of the family. My sister has all girls. And so, my youngest nieces are twins, and they were diagnosed on the spectrum about almost 2 years ago. And just seeing where they're at now because of the therapy section, because of the treatments that they go through as far as like, um, language perspectives and everything. Like one of them wants to talk nonstop and just be around people. The other one is slowly progressing. She's talking more, but she still wants to be a loner. She still wants to be, on her own on her iPad, which I get. Like I was like that when I was her age. But just to see how far we have come in everything when it comes to autism, like it truly is amazing. And we're not done yet. There's still more work to be done, as far as like, acceptance for our community and so on and so forth. But I'm still willing to get behind, whatever I can do to make sure that we get to that point and show society that, hey, we're more than just a diagnosis. We're more than that. And we're going to go out every day and show you guys what we're made of.
Yeah, for sure. You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.